there, welcome to the Inn on Church Road. I'm Chef Hannah, and today we are in the kitchen making some flourless chocolate brownie cookies. I love this recipe because it's super simple, super delicious, and it comes together in a flash, so it's a good recipe to have on hand when you need something in a pinch. We are starting with some toasted almond meal or almond flour. So this is almond meal that I have just spread out on a sheet pan in the oven and toasted it in a 375-degree oven for about 5 or 10 minutes, just until it gets a little slightly brown and you start to smell that nutty flavor. And then I've cooled it down. So that's what we have here. And then in this bowl, I have some powdered sugar and some cocoa powder. Now this recipe is not terribly fussy, so it doesn't matter too much of whether you're using natural cocoa powder or Dutch process. So now I'm just going to toss my dry ingredients together, and I am going to take a whisk and just blend them really well. You can also sift the dry ingredients together, but typically I just use a whisk. As I said, it's not a very fussy recipe, so that's kind of nice. So I'm just blending everything. I want to make sure it looks all one color and I don't see any lumps. But while I'm doing this, a good thing to mention is your recipe measurements. So in this recipe, I'm giving you the volume measurements, so the cup measurements, but also the weighted measurements in grams. And I highly recommend that if you do any amount of baking, you use the weighted measurements in grams. So you do need a scale to do that, a kitchen scale. But you can find these, if you don't already have one, you can find them anywhere now at any kitchen store, probably even Walmart. I think I've seen kitchen scales at before. This is a really nice one, but you don't necessarily have to get one this big. Just a simple, small kitchen scale will do the trick. But weighing your measurements is going to be so much more accurate, and it's just going to give you a better consistency. It's also actually a lot easier. So instead of having all of those different cup measurements out and spooning the powdered sugar in and leveling it off and all of that, you just have to dump it in the bowl until it hits the gram measurement. And you can even keep adding your other dry ingredients that are weighed as well into that same bowl. So it comes together super quick. So I highly recommend weighing your ingredients. All right, but now it looks like this is all blended together. So now I'm going to add a little bit of salt. I'm using kosher salt here, but if you've got table salt, if that's all you have, that's fine. Just maybe back off a little bit on it because table salt is saltier, if you will. And now I have some egg whites. So 4 egg whites I have here are about 120 grams. I am going to add that in my bowl, as well as some vanilla extract. And the extract is somewhere else where you can kind of play around with some fun variations here. So just like I mentioned, you could use walnuts or hazelnuts instead of the almonds. You can also add some different flavorings here. So I really like orange extract with chocolate. I think that is a really nice combination. So that's something you could do. Or since I'm using almond flour here, I could add some almond extract if I really wanted that flavor to come through. But I am just going to now mix up all these ingredients, so the wet into the dry here. I've switched to a spatula because it is going to be pretty stiff. So at this point, now that we've blended our dry ingredients well, we're switching to the spatula, or a wooden spoon would be fine here too. All right, we're coming together. This is looking good. And it's going to look like a really stiff, ooey gooey brownie batter here. Now, sometimes this can look a little bit loose, so we're going to pop this into the fridge for about 30 minutes or so before we scoop these and bake them. So I am just blending this up until there are no dry bits left. And I can start to smell it. It smells so good. Very chocolatey. All right, this looks good. So I'm gonna pop this into the fridge for 30 minutes and I'll see you back here. All right, so now we have our chilled cookie dough straight from the fridge, and I've got a cookie scoop here for easy portioning. So I am just going to scoop a few cookies here. You can, if you don't want to bake off all of your cookies, you can scoop all of them and pop them in the freezer. And then as soon as they're frozen, you can collect them in a Ziploc freezer bag and just keep the frozen, scooped, unbaked cookies in the freezer until you're ready to use them, and then just pull them out. Usually I try to thaw them overnight, or at least for a few hours in the fridge, and then you'll have this here. So I give them a little pat because they are really stiff, so they don't actually spread much. So just a little pat. And then my favorite thing to do is to take a little bit of flaky sea salt, because salt and chocolate goes so good together. So a little flaky sea salt on top is my favorite addition. And now I'm just going to pop these into a 375-degree oven for about 10 to 15 minutes or so. You want them to still just be a little bit gooey on the inside, but you want to be able to still pick the cookie up off of the sheet. So I'm going to pop these in the oven. You can find this recipe and more on our website, inonchurchroad.com.